Hi, everybody. So today we're going to look at 401ks as a way of improving your personal worth. Let me hit the share screen here. There. All right. All right. So I call this investing for your life because this is a lifelong thing I want you to get the idea of. You were saving money for your retirement is what we're talking about. So I call this How to Become a Millionaire. This guy is a pretty famous billionaire. Actually, if you didn't recognize his picture, he's Larry Page. He's one of the guys who helped found Google. And just for fun, I look him up occasionally. I think what I say, Sergey Brin is worth like 62 billion, and Larry Page is worth like 108 billion, something like that. As compared to like Bill Gates clocking in around 132 billion dollars, right? But just some fun facts. Okay, so the way wealthy people get wealthy is many of them don't start out wealthy. Is one of the things you need to do is learn how to control your taxes and pay less of the money you do make to the government so you can invest it and then it can make money for you because you can only make so much money yourself. So taxes become a huge impact on investing, and so many people are taxed at anywhere between 22% of federal tax and higher. And then here in Virginia, we pay 5.75% income tax rate on all the money you make. That includes money you make from investing, like interest for having your money in the bank and things like that. So all of that is taxed. So it's easy to pay, say, 28% or something like that on your earnings. And when you take almost a third of the money off the top goes to Uncle Sam, it's harder to accumulate enough money to gather some wealth together. Here's an example of the tax tables if you haven't seen this before. So for unmarried is the second column. So if you're unmarried, you can look at like any look down to where it says $40,000, 22%. If you make more than $40,126, you're going to be in the 22% tax bracket. So every dollar you make more than $40,126 is going to get taxed at 22%. And then you also have to pay the state income tax on that. So it adds up pretty fast is the idea. So if you can defer paying taxes on your income, you can invest it when it's pre-tax dollars, and you have a lot more money to invest because they won't take a quarter to a third of it out for taxes. So here's just a scale I found on the internet. And it talks about if you took money and had it taxed and took your take-home pay and invested it, you get the money here over 30 years in this light green area at the bottom of the graph here, and you'd be 153,000, say, over time if you invested $150 a month for 30 years, right? But if you did it with, and the problem with that, when it's invested, every year it grows, just like when you have money in the bank. Every year you get paid interest by the bank. You still have to pay income tax on the interest, right? As crazy as it seems, people with Social Security checks have to pay income tax on some of that Social Security payments. So anyway, if you didn't have to pay income taxes on your money that was invested, it could, as it grew, it wouldn't get taxed, so it would grow faster, and you would end up with 225,000, not 151,000. And that's a lot. That's a lot of difference. That's a big percentage difference. That's probably, it's about 75. It's about 50% better growth, right? That's a huge difference when you consider your lifetime savings, when that can be a lot of money. Okay, so the way you can do this is called a traditional IRA, traditional 401k plan. Or some people refer to it as a 401k. Now, 401k is not a magic number. It's the part of the IRS tax code that talks about how to do this. That's where the number 401k comes from. So the definition of this is, in a traditional 401k, the employee contributions are deducted from gross income. So what this means is you take the money out of your paycheck before you pay income taxes on it, either state or federal. You still have to pay Social Security, but instead of those of you who had jobs understand how much smaller your take-home pay is due to your, instead of your gross pay, because of the deductions of taxes. Well, when you put money into a 401k, your employer will take it right out of your check before they calculate your taxes, and it goes in a special account, which we'll talk about. So as a result, your taxable income is reduced by the total amount of contributions for the year and can be reported as a tax deduction for that year. So you never have to pay taxes on it that year. You will eventually, but not for a long time. So we'll talk about that. So no taxes are due either from the money contributed or the investment earnings until you withdraw the money. So if you put money you have money taken out of your check, and let's say you put it in the stock market, and the stock market does well and your money doubles, right? You haven't had to pay taxes on the initial money you took out of your check, and you don't have to pay money on the money it made in the stock market, right? Until you withdraw it, right? And that's usually not until you retire. So it's a great way to accumulate money quickly. All right, so this is different than a pension. Say you work for the federal government for 30 years and you can retire on a federal government pension. Right, let's look over to the right of the slide. So contributions are decided by your employer. So your government tells you, if you work at a federal job, they'll say, this is what our pension is. Basically, take it or leave it. It depends on your grade that you are in the employment stack, right? So the employer controls all the investments. They decide how they're going to fund this thing. They decide where the money's coming from. And some companies still do this. This used to be the way everybody did it 40 years ago. But many companies don't do this, but some companies still do. Right? You can have pension benefits are based on salary and tenure. So how long did you work for them? How much money do you make determines how much you get in your retirement, right? And if you work for it now, hopefully the federal government doesn't fail. But if you work for a company that does this, right, the bottom bullet here says if the company fails, the employee may not get their full benefits because some employers don't have all the money paid in that account. It's going to take to pay everybody off. They're planning on doing it do it later, but maybe there isn't a later because the company went broke. In that case, whatever money's in there is all you get. So you may only get a partial retirement. And the bad news is you might already be retired when this happens, right? So now you're basically out of the workforce, right? It's kind of risky. That's why it's okay to do it with the federal government because they're probably not going to be in that situation. But for companies, it's risky. If somebody buys them and changes the plan or they go out of business, that could be a problem, right? Okay, so now I look to the left. 401k. So contributions are up to the employee and the employer. So you decide how much money comes out of your check before you pay taxes on it and goes in a special account. Now, many employers, like my employer, will pay 50 cents on the dollar for the first 6% I put in. So they're putting in 3% into if I put in 6%, they'll put in 3%. So many companies, they want to encourage you to do this because you no longer have a pension. So they put in some money when you put in some money, but only when you put in some money because they want to encourage you to do it, not just live off their money, right? So the second bullet, the employee controls the investments. You get to decide what you're going to invest that money in. Like I always tell people when you're young, invest in the stock market. And the way you do that is you invest in mutual funds. And mutual fund is nothing but you see these ads on TV, these fund managers. You give them your money and they have special stock analyst people that analyze what they think the good stocks are going to be. They buy stocks in the stock market. And then if the fund grows up, and then they get a cut, they get a small percent of the fund, of the money that's in the fund every year. And then that's how they make their money. And then kind of like a bookie, right? And then, but if the fund does well, then more people put their money in. So they get the same percentage cut of a much bigger fund and they make a lot more money, right? So they're definitely motivated to try to do well, to invest your money in good results. The third bullet is contributions still belong to the employee after leaving a job. So everybody always asks me, okay, I work for a company, I'm putting money in this fund and they're putting money in this fund and then I quit. What happens? I get fired, whatever it is. Company goes out of business. What happens? What happens is it's your money. Both their money and your money are your money. So you get to take that with you, right? Or you can leave it, but most people take it with them. Now, you don't get to cash out. You take it, it's called a rollover. You roll it over into a similar account at a different place, a different certified financial institution, and they'll put it in the same kind of fund with maybe slightly different investments, and they'll take care of it for you. Right? I mean, I don't mean take care of it. They'll hold it for you, and they'll invest it for you per your instructions. Right. So the bottom line is the last bullet. If the company fails, your 401k money is safe. This is very important because this is most of the money you're going to live through in your retirement. And if something happened to that, that's a problem, right? If you don't have any money to retire, that's a serious problem. It will affect your golden years like you can't believe. So you need to be careful and, take good care of that money. So the good news is when you leave, you get to take it with you. And even if your company fails, right, it's your money, not their money. They can't take it. I remember an employee asking us, hey, our company's losing money. Do you think they'll raid money out of our 401k investments? Like, no, they can't. That's embezzlement. They'll go to jail, right? There's absolutely no chance of that happening. Like, oh, good. Okay, so a little more about 401k. So some companies I said match 50 cents for every dollar you put in. And so like where I work, it's up to 6% of your salary, and you're crazy not to take advantage of it because it's free money, right? It's like I give myself a 3% raise because the company puts in 3% if I put in 6%. The second bullet, your own contributions to the plan are taken from your paycheck on a pre-tax basis. We said that there's no no state or federal income tax, and a penny saved, by Ben Franklin said, a penny saved is a penny earned. Actually, a penny saved is about a penny, about 1.3 or 1.35 pennies earned because of the tax savings, because they're not taking income tax out of it, right? And I mentioned again, the growth from the income taxes, the growth from the investments isn't taxed. Now, when you retire, right, you can withdraw, right? You will pay this then as incomes, right? The old joke is true. There's two things in life you can't avoid: death and taxes. Well, we're all going to die and we're all going to pay taxes. So you've magically taken this money out of your paycheck without paying taxes on it. Great. You've invested it into different investments and it's grown and you haven't paid taxes on the growth either. No, great. Okay, now what? How do I get, right? Well, when you draw your money out so you can spend it, that's when you finally have to pay taxes. But isn't that the same thing? You get taxed or you get taxed. It is not the same thing. It's not even close. Why? Because the money's had all this time to grow. So it's a much bigger pile of money you take taxes on. Also, when you draw money out, when you retire, I don't have my day job anymore. So my income is probably less. So I'm in a lower tax bracket. So I'll pay less taxes then anyway. And you can invest in lots of things. I won't go into these, right? But I already mentioned, if you buy a mutual fund of stocks over the long haul, and I mean the long haul, like your working career over decades, the stock market's always the best place to be in the last century, right? Over the last 100 years, even including the Great Depression where the stock market crashed. Over the long haul, the stock market was the best investment. So that's the one I advise, particularly young investors, to go in. Now, if your grandma is in her 70s and she's living off her retirement account, it probably shouldn't all be in the stock market, because if it crashes, then she has less money to live off of. It should probably be something that's going to fluctuate less. A couple more things. You can borrow from your 401k account in an emergency, like you had a serious medical issue or somebody in your family member has a serious medical issue. So a lot of programs have things you can borrow, like maybe not the whole amount, but some. I saw one recently. You could borrow up to $50,000 out of the plan, right? You don't withdraw it. You just borrow it, and then you pay it back over the next 5 years, which is a nice option to have if your family ever had a financial emergency, right? And then, so when can you withdraw? So the way it works with withdrawal is you could start withdrawing at age 59 and a half, not paying a penalty. So if I had an emergency and I'm 45 years old, could I withdraw? And the answer is, well, you can go for the loan. If the loan isn't enough, then you could withdraw, but you have to pay income taxes on it when you withdraw. And before that, you have to pay a 10% penalty. So say you want to draw $100,000. Okay. So the first thing I do is pay a 10% penalty. So Uncle Sam takes 10% off the top. Now you get $90,000, right? But you're going to pay income tax on all that too. So it's like you get a double whammy. So why is this in there? Because the government knows that if people are saving money and they start saving $10, $20, $30, $40,000, some people are going to get the urge to go pull that out, pay the taxes on it, go spend it. Look, I had $50,000 saved up. I pulled it out. I spent $15,000 on taxes. I still have $35,000. Well, let's go to Vegas, right? Let's go blow it on something, right? So to discourage that, they put on this 10% penalty where you almost have to pay half of it in taxes, because they really want you to keep your money in this account. So the government doesn't have to deal with you being broke when you're older, essentially, right? They want this for you so you can have something to retire on, right? This is on top of Social Security and other things you might have going. So this is very much geared towards your retirement. That's why it stays in there so long. All right, now you may have heard people talk about an IRA. IRA means individual retirement account. What's the difference between the two? The answer is not a lot. Once the money's in there, it all gets treated the same. So when I work for a big company, they take the money out of my check, it goes right into the account, and if there's company matching, it goes in there with it. Okay, fine. What happens if I'm self-employed and I have a lawn service, right? My company, which is me, doesn't have a 401k benefit, right? Because it's just me or me and one other guy or whatever it is, right? So what you can do then is you can get an IRA. And the way that works is I get my normal paycheck and I pay my normal taxes out of that paycheck, and I get my normal take-home pay like you working at a job somewhere, right? Then I can take, say, suppose I want to put like $2,000 into an IRA. I go to a financial institution like a bank, and I said, here's a check for $2,000. I'm going to put $2,000 in an IRA. And then they do. Then they give me paperwork that says I put $2,000 in an IRA. Now, when I go file my taxes, state and federal, at the end of the year, I said, okay, this year I made, say, $40,000, but I'm going to subtract $2,000 from that I put in an IRA, and I got to show the paperwork that says I did that. Now I'm going to pay taxes on the $38,000, but I've already been taxed at a rate of $40,000. That's okay. I'll take the difference in a refund, right? So the money you've paid to Uncle Sam out of your paycheck, the amount of that money that you actually later put into an IRA, you'll get refunded those taxes, state and federal income tax. That's how an IRA works. That's why they said they're essentially the same. So in a 401k, you don't pay the taxes at all as the money goes in. In an IRA, they withdraw the money out of your paycheck, you put the money into the account, then you get the paperwork to tell IRS that say, hey, that money should be untaxed now, and then the government will give you your tax money back, fair and square. So that's not bad, right? So that's a way the little companies can do it. When they first started 401ks, all the little self-employed people said, hey, this is a great deal. What about me? And then, oh yeah, we forgot about you, right? So they quickly put an IRA system in place, right? And this has been working. This has been around for like 25 years now, 30 years now, and it's been working pretty well. People are pretty happy with this. Okay, so let's take a look. So we are going to cut and paste. You can cut and paste this connection into a sheet, and I will look at, let me pull up a different page here. Let me this down. Okay, here we go. This is called an investment growth calculator, right? This one happens put out by an investment company, Fidelity Magellan, I think it is, and they've been around a long time. They're a pretty big, solid company. But you can say, if I invested this much money at this much rate, how much would it turn into? So it's a really nice way to see it. So, all right, so let's walk through this. Let's say, kind of ignore the numbers for now. Let's put some numbers in. Say, so initial investment, right? How much money are you going to have when you start your first professional job to open up a 401k account? Answer, zero, right? I don't know if it takes zero, I'll put $1 in, right? If you're like me, you're going to be dead broke when you graduate college. There's no shame in that, right? It just is, right? That's why you went to college, right? So you can not be dead broke later on. Okay, time to grow. How long are you going to work? Well, let's say you graduate college when you're what? 23. And let's say you retire at, say, 63, or a lot of people retire 67, something like that. So we'll call it 45 years in the workforce until you retire. Rate of return, that's a big question. That matters a lot. So I've looked at this for a while. In the long haul, over many years, over numerous decades, the stock market returns about 8%. So I'll put 8%. Now, that's a very different number if you buy something else that gives you 4% or whatever. You're going to get very different results. Okay, annual contributions. So let's say you make about, we got to pick some numbers here, you make $50,000 coming out of college, your first job, around $50,000. So let's say a good rule of thumb is to try to save 10% of your money. So let's say you're going to put 10% of your money into this account. Okay, so that would be nice. And you can include the employer's, so if the employer's paying, say, $1,500 for matching funds, and you put in $3,500. Now that's taking a lot of the sting out of that. They're doing you a favor there, but you can still put in $5,000. And I said, we're going to do that annually. They're really going to take it out every paycheck. Okay, inflation rate. We can calculate inflation in this particular calculator. That's fine. Say inflation is, I don't know, 3%. It was 3% for a long time, 2 and 3%. It's up now. We'll pick a number. We'll just call it 3%. Okay, now, because this is in a 401k account, it's going to be not taxed coming out of your check, not taxed year to year as it grows. So we're going to say a tax rate is 0 because then it's in a protected account. And that's it for our assumptions. 3%, right? Okay, let's see how much money we have in. So let's read this. So the blue is the amount invested, $458,000. That's this blue at the bottom of the graph. That's how much you put in over 45 years old. That's your money, $5,000 a year. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, by the way, I should have told you. I checked the box here that said increase annual investment and inflation, right? Annual investment. So in your career, you're not going to work 45 years in the workforce and get the same pay for 45 years. If you do, you seriously need to get a different job, right? So this has calculated your income is going to go up at the rate of inflation. So inflation goes up too, but So we said inflation was 3%. So it's going to assume you're going to average 3% raises through your years. Now that counts promotions and raises and merit pay and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So not a terrible number. So we're going to assume you're going to put in $5,000 the first year, and then it's going to go up 3% for 45 years, right? So you're going to end up putting in $458,000 of your own money in this account. Okay, fine. Okay, now simple earnings. So your investment, your $458,000 will grow over 45 years to $655,000 because it's had so long to grow, right? So it's going to grow a long time at 8%. Okay, now here's the kicker. Compound earnings are 1.77 million. What are those? Your simple earnings up here in the light blue, that grow the 655,000. As soon as one of your dollars amount invested makes another dollar simple earnings, that simple earnings gets immediately reinvested and it starts growing into compound earnings. So the green bars are what come from the light blue bar, right? But they've been in there a long time. So the compound earnings, that means, right? The beauty of this is you've saved money. Smart you, well done you, right? And it's made simple earnings. And then earnings that you earned, earnings that you made from investments, you didn't have to get them in a paycheck. You didn't have to go to work. It's because you had money invested in the right things, right? It made an additional 1.77 million that you didn't have to do a thing. You didn't have to go to work, right? That's the advantage of having not just a little money in the bank, but some wealth, right? It makes money for you, which is fantastic, right? So the whole thing rolls up to 2.88 million. So according to this, you should have almost $3 million when you retire, right? That, my friends, is how you become a millionaire, right? You just slow plugger every paycheck, have it properly invested. Not a big deal. You put in the money market, put it into a mutual fund that's in the stock market. You don't have to do anything. They manage it for you. Right? And it goes in there and you will not walk away. You're going to enter your retirement with a nice big piggy bank of 2.88 million, right? Then you can invest it in something that says maybe it makes 5% interest, right? It's going to pay you 5% interest. 5% of 2.88 is, well, 10% is 290,000. So you're going to make about $145,000 a year, right, to live off of, plus it's your Social Security, plus anything else you might have, right? Try that, right? So it's a nice way to save up for your future, right? And this is just one paycheck, right? A lot of families have two paychecks. So imagine that if you doubled it. Not bad, huh? All right. So that's why 401ks are important to know about, because let's say you got out of college now and I want to buy a car, and it's going to have a 6-year payment. So I'm not going to save any money because I want to buy a brand new car, my dream car. I'm going to get that special car, right? So I'm not going to pay any money in this account for 6 years. Okay. Now remember the number 2.88 million. We're going to drop your investment down to, by 6 years, we're going to take it down to 39. 2.88 million becomes 1.73. I hope you like that car because it cost you over $1 million. Right? Because your money is almost doubling every 7 years, right? That's why it's important to get in early and stay in. I'll say it one more time, get in early and stay early. So you graduate, when you go to your first job, right? I want you to, and they're going to bring you to a HR where you have to sign up for all your health benefits, all that kind of thing. And one of the things that'll probably be in there is this some version of this 401k savings plan. And you sign up for that immediately, and if you don't know what to put in 10%. If you don't know what to invest in, you want to invest in stock mutual funds, right? And then just let it ride. Now, can you change it? You bet. Anytime you want, right? Suppose you say, oh my God, I overdid it. I need to take a little less money the first year or something like that. Absolutely. You can walk in there month to month with almost any HR department and change these investments. Okay, so that is a key thing for you to know for future you, so you will be okay in your retirement. Right, so I just want to explain it today, and feel free to come back with any questions you might have for me. Thanks for listening. Take care. Let me stop the share here, and I'll pause it. Bye-bye.